So 9 times out of 10, when we have that ball screen on the wing, the player with the ball wants to take it, use it, and go middle. So when we're icing the screen on defense, we're forcing them baseline, not allowing them to use the screen in the first place. So we'll watch how Williams here does it. As soon as she knows that screen is coming, she's jumping on top of it, clearly forcing the player with the ball to go left, to go baseline. And that is exactly what we want. We're forcing her to not use the screen. And you can see the angle of Williams' feet here. We're clearly not playing the ball handler one-on-one to the basket. We're forcing her baseline to where our help defender, our teammate who's guarding the screener, is anyway. This way, we're really dictating where the offense goes. And you can see they end up forcing her into a pretty difficult, low percentage contested jumper, which is really what we want to get out of this. So here again, we got a really good example of angles and positioning on icing the ball screen. And we'll also see why the pick and pop, that jump shot, is typically the look that you give up when we defend this way. So again, first things first, teammates got to communicate. We got to let Jewell Loyd know that this ball screen is coming. The worst thing you can do is let your teammate get blindsided by a screen. Then as soon as she knows that screen is coming, again she angles herself, completely forcing that player to drive baseline, and therefore not allowing her to use the screen. And it works out fine here, but ideally you want to be higher than the screen. So if you look at Loyd's positioning, if the offense really wanted, they could still drive middle and slam her into that screen. In icing the ball screen and forcing that drive baseline, you want to make sure that this foot is higher than this screener's foot. So really just one step higher here, and this would have been perfect positioning, just to be certain that we're denying her from using the screen and sending her toward our help. And because we're forcing her so hard to go baseline, this help defender is super important. And right now Russell is in a really good spot to help stop that drive or even stop the roll, but right now her player setting the screen is not really much of a threat. So they get what they want out of it. They force the ball handler to drive baseline, pick it up in the short corner with 2 defenders on her. And this is where you kind of got to know personnel, who's a good shooter, who's not, because I think the defense could have done an even better job rotating here. There's no way that she's shooting this ball or making a pass to one of these 3 players, so we know where it's going. And I think this jump shot is a little too comfortable, but again, it depends on personnel. A lot of bigs won't be comfortable taking that shot, so it might be what you're willing to give up. I like this clip just for showing how much icing the ball screen can really fluster the offense. It is a great option to have in your defense to be able to throw in there, if not just to take the offense out of what they're doing. In this instance, really keeping the ball to one side of the floor and almost forcing a turnover. So here, Sue Bird's already forcing the ball baseline before the screen even gets there. Her feet angled damn near parallel to the sideline. And she's just a step above the screen, so there's no way that player's going to use it and drive middle. And of course, you got to first follow your team's game plan. But in this case, having this player on the strong side corner makes icing the ball screen even more ideal, because there's definitely no lane to the basket, and we're really forcing the ball to stay on this side of the floor where we got 3 defenders and it's just crowded. So again, we're dictating what the offense does, and in this case it's pretty obvious. Their only decent option is to try to reverse the ball through the top, which the defense can anticipate and almost get a steal for a layup out of it. And as much as we love learning from these great examples, there's also a lot to be learned from mistakes. So here we got a not so great example of icing the screen. So as our on-ball defender jumps to the high side of that screen, we can see that these 3 help defenders are each hugging their man just a little bit too much, not in a position to help on the drive. And then looking at the screen action itself, this defender, matched up with the screener, mainly needs to help on the baseline drive. Take a look at the whole floor right now. All of our help defense and all that traffic is in the middle of the court. And because when we're icing the screen, we're aggressively forcing her to drive baseline, making that her only option, we got to be ready to help on that baseline drive, whereas here there's pretty much no resistance and she just jogs it in for a layup. Another thing you might see a lot if you're icing the ball screen is the offense setting that screen on the other side so that they can still use it. In this case, it's pretty much the same thing. You're keeping them to that side of the floor, forcing them to go baseline. Now it just looks more like a show and recover instead of icing the ball screen. And this crowded off the dribble 3 is typically a pretty low percentage shot. So, like I mentioned earlier, typically what you're giving up in icing the ball screen is that pick and pop for the jump shot. And really, this is just where you gotta know personnel. If that's a knockdown shooter or we don't want to give up a three that easily, then really we need help from the rest of our teammates to rotate over to stop that shot, because we still gotta stop the ball first. And decisions like this usually come down to your team's game plan, knowing personnel, and just game situation. So remember, if we are icing the ball screen, our job is to initially deny that ball handler from using the screen. Then we gotta stop the ball as a team and essentially just take the offense out of doing whatever they're comfortable with.